Story continued from Thaddeus and Tarquinus playlist. First Contact. I am on the bridge of my ship. Barbon stood tall at my side. The rest of the crew here are hunched, like a huge weight presses down on them from above, like they are making themselves smaller, hiding. I understand the stances, of course. It's rather claustrophobic in here. Why? We are all waiting, watching, practically holding our breaths. You could hear a pin drop if it was not for the raucous blips and screeches coming from the many stations and systems on this, the most active part of the ship. Our power is down, our vessel seemingly at rest. We are hiding in the shadow of a moon. Before us is a system that was pretty much devoid of activity, or so we thought. Stumbled upon in one of our ranging jumps. We thought it was a nice little hidey hole to get our bearings, take a breather. More's the pity. The last few days have been a bit fraught, if I am honest. Like beggars trying to find a welcome inn at a high festival, we have been turned away again and again. Every system we landed, a new event, a new threat detected. Not that we presently know who is friend or foe, so it is safer to consider anything and everyone a potential danger. One thing I can state categorically is this. The propaganda pushed out by our Imperium could not be further from the truth. In the Imperium, we are told that the Astronomicon reaches all, even to the very edges of the galaxy. We are told that those few small regions outside of its light, outside of the Imperium, are barren, worthless, and lifeless husks. Thus, there is no real need to extend the Imperium. There is nothing there to extend into, nothing worthy of the taking. And, in my arrogance, I knew this was not right, but somehow I did not really consider how badly misrepresented it was. Another error to add to my recently growing catalogue of blunders. Not a nice feeling to be proven wrong so often in such a short stint. Barbon, of course, is not concerned. But then, is he ever truly concerned? Sometimes I feel he watches us like children playing at war. I know this is not the case, but can I be certain anymore? A brain fart. One of all too many of late. Since the event. Since my world was turned upside down. The last days have challenged everything I know about myself. Everything. Am I truly the Thaddeus? Or after all these years, am I still just pretending? Am I just that wide-eyed boy who was chosen due to his scores, not his soul? Irrelevant. I must regain discipline. I crush my doubts and bring myself back to the moment. We are lurking in the shadow of a massive moon which orbits an even larger planet, a gas giant. It has many a storm within, throwing off energies I will never understand, no matter how many times the tech priests try to describe them to me. Mine is the battlefield of the soul, not the sea of stars. Yet I am informed that we are nearly undetectable in this position. We can see them, but they cannot see us. I sincerely hope this is true. 4 ships are in our little flotilla, where once there were 5. Yet the moon protects us all, even the massive silhouette of the Votan ship. Out there, we are witnessing a ballet of sorts. At first, we were happy to be alone, but we noticed the new players arrive on the stage. Coming out of the Mandeville point, they skimmed into the system, clearly a scouting force, a trio of ships that did not match anything on our collected data banks. Large, but nothing compared to the size of the bastion ship of the kin, so they must have been frigates or light cruiser equivalents. With no smaller escorts, they were certainly not of the Imperial Navy. And their designs were odd indeed. Again, a different style of ship for what was evidently a different type of war out here. They coasted into the center of the system, took their time, doing a once-over to check the only planets that might support life. Another guess, of course, but an educated one. Our captain, Thaddeus Petrius, once held high office in the Navy. He knows his trade, and I am damn lucky to have him. A true son of Macragge, he volunteered for this. Quite a downgrade in ship size to what he is used to, but not so much in potence. The vessels of the Inquisition are some of the best the Imperium commands. Even so, we are strangers in a strange land. We have no dry dock or starbase to run to if we are mauled. We will only fight when given no other choice. So we lurk and watch the drama unfold over the days. The three ships seemed to be satisfied and were heading back to the Mandeville point, thankfully never bothering to come out as far as we were. Yet, that was when we saw a new set of interlopers crash into the scene. No vents in the void opened up. The two smaller ships came out of nowhere, but close to the first set of vessels. Not on top of them, but damn close. By accident or by design, we had yet to find out. We could not see exactly what was happening with our passive information, not daring to deploy our active auspex. That would have lit us up like a sanguinary display, declaring our presence to everyone in system. So, we observed as best we could via telescopes and other doohickeys. Shadows from light. It's all very technical. Thus, intensely boring. The first flotilla of three ships turned and pelted towards the newcomers. But, to our surprise, the smaller vessels, the size of fast destroyers at the maximum, did not dip back into the warp. They did not try to peg it away from the clearly superior force. Oh no, they swept straight towards them. Chevrons marked on displays. We all watched as the two groups closed over the next hours. I have to admit, I detest void combat. The nerve of the Navy is a thing of wonder to me. I cannot imagine a guardsman being at high alert for a week, just to then get stuck in, watching for an eternity before mere hours of frantic activity. These lads have balls of absolute ceramite. Petrius took it in stride, while my own nerves were being slowly diced. Then they were upon one another. The three ships opened up with torpedo salvos, launched interceptors as a second wave. The torpedo chevron seemed to disappear near the two smaller craft. Did they hit? Or were they battered out of the sky by point defences? Impossible for us to say. But the exact same happened with the interceptors. Gone. There were none of the usual antics. I have been in larger battles before. I have seen how interceptors dodge and weave around capital ships, buzzing around them like flies on a turd. But this time, again, the chevrons simply winked out of existence. Light blazed, as the capital ships then got into range to exchange their primary weapons. Captain Petrius leant forward, staring over his steepled hands, like a hunter watching prey. He leant back and breathed out steadily, as the three larger ships then simply winked out of existence as well. the two smaller ships coasting past where they were. He had a look of deep concentration and no little concern. Personally, I had expected to watch them fly past each other, envisioning them exchanging broadsides, arcing around to go at it again. No matter how deadly macro cannons and lance batteries may be, the capital ships of most races can take a fair amount of punishment before they are finally rent apart. It is usually a slow ballet that is punctuated by blazing rounds darting across the skies to slam into each other, plumes of fire exploding on and from each side as they exchange broadsides. To witness the larger ships simply disappear was haunting. At first, the captain tutted dramatically and snapped for our receptors to be recalibrated, darting dirty looks at the tech priests littering the bridge. But after 2 such attempts, it was clear. The smaller ships had annihilated the larger vessels on the first pass. Petrius whitened when it was incontrovertible, shocked to the very core. This broke every rule he knew, confounded his decades of experience. In the name of terror, what could do so much damage in such a short period of time? Were the larger ships made of spit and wishful thinking? An alarm went off, and the captain then locked eyes with me. "My Lord Inquisitor, we need to use thrusters to adjust our position." "Is that wise, Captain?" says I. "They should not be aware of such a movement at this distance. But if we do not, we will come out of the shadow, and there is a slim chance they may spot us." "Do whatever is necessary, Captain." Petrius snapped off curt orders, and we maneuvered slightly, but matched by the rest of our wee squadron of ships. Klaxons then rent the air as multiple stations lit up across the bridge, and my heart sinks as these 2 ships turn around and start moving towards our position. I glared up at Petrius. My right foot begins to tap of its own accord. He looks down at me and states, "Somehow they have spotted us. Active Auspex is now coming from their ships. They have our coordinates. Your orders?" "I thought that was nigh on impossible at this range." "It is, Lord Inquisitor. Nothing in the Navis Imperialis could spot us at this range for such a short burst. Nothing. By Gilliman's balls, open up a Vox channel to the others." He winces at my irreverence, but gives the order, and Saulat, Vermilia, and Arnhrod appear before our eyes. "The game's up. We are uncovered. We need to get out of here." The Carl kicks off proceedings. "We can't hide forever, Thaddeus. We need information. We need it now. I say we get to grips with this lot. They may be the allies we are looking for in all of this." Saulat pipes in next. "Absolutely not. When we make contact, it shall be on our terms. This is too risky. I say we jump." Vermilia snorts as she says, "That's all we have done for the last 8 jumps." I'm with Arnhrod. I say we try to open up comms and see how this plays out. They are 2 ships, and they are smaller. We outnumber them, outweigh them. I say we stand. I look up at Petrius. His stoic mask does not crack, but he slowly shakes his head at me. "I can understand the frustration, I can. It's not like any of us like to scarper at the first sign of trouble. But those 2 have just removed ships nearly as large as our own in a single pass. It's too damn risky. There is too much at stake for grandstanding." Saulat nods emphatically. Arnhrod grimaces. Vermilia sneers. But I know I have them. "Look, they detected us all the way out here. They appeared out of nowhere. No rent in the warp we could detect. We do not know who they are or what they want. We only know that they are potentially far in advance of our own ships. We may be no match for them, despite their size." "Speak for yourself," snaps Arnhrod. "Which is exactly what I am doing. My old girl is lethally close, but she has no long-range firepower to speak of. Saulat has little more than a cutter. If we lose either your or Vermilia's ships, we are gutted. and we may end up haunting this sector of space for all eternity, never able to get the job done. I need fuel, Thaddeus. We cannot run forever, Boxer Carl. And nobody is asking that we do. I would remind you that this quest has been centuries in the making. It is not a whim. If we cock this up, there may never be another chance. You made an oath of vengeance against the enemy. You cannot fulfill your duty if you are dead, and nor can we. He scowls, but now he has plausible deniability in front of his warriors. Anhard, we need you. We need you intact, and we need you to plot a course right now and lead us. Please, old friend, we do not have time to dicker and bicker. He nods sharply and cuts off his comms. The other two match him. Decision made. We fire up our jump engines. I look back at the multispectral display, and I double-take. I look up at Petrius again. He confirms my concerns with his own look. These ships, they are moving faster than anything we have in our squadron, and that is saying something. A new message comes in from the kinship. Coordinates received. We tear a hole in the warp, and are gone. Lights flash outside the ship. The nausea-inducing kaleidoscope of impossible hues and shades that never existed streak past us. The only thing protecting us from the horrors of the warp being the Geller field around this ship. Strange that a tiny bubble can prevent all of the power of chaos from touching us. I will always be annoyed at my lack of knowledge in the technical arts, but those are the purview of the priests of Mars. But I will never understand them either. If they can make shields that can hold back all the power of the dark gods while we are in their very own realm, why can't they create such shields and weapons for use against demons in our universe? It makes no sense to me. I did once corner a priest of Mars and interrogate them on this exact line of thinking, but no matter how I pushed, no matter how I prodded, the wretch stated he could no more explain this to me than I could explain the machinations of the dark gods to a Grox. I left before I tore his face off, and I despised them all from that point onwards, for I never could quite shake the feeling that they could simply not be bothered, that they scoffed at the Dark Ones, sneered at the Inquisition as the truth of chaos did not fit into their neat interpretations of reality. They claimed to be the most enlightened beings in the Imperium, yet they reject the things that make us what we are, our flesh, our souls. To them, such concerns are almost dirty. The flesh is weak, and some even amongst the Astartes have been caught to say, I could not disagree with them more. The human body and soul is the ultimate weapon in the universe. Why else did the Dark Ones capture us so thoroughly, aim at us so much? Why did they truly rise when humanity came out across the stars? The Eldar will say it is because humanity is inherently weak, inherently selfish and naive, so we are fields rich for the seed of corruption. Yet, I suspect that this is just bluster. They know deep down the truth. That we humans are far more able than they ever were. The Eldar like to tout that they controlled the galaxy for millions of years. Yet did they make a paradise of reality? Did they remove pain and war and hate so that chaos would be defeated? No, they did not. Because they were caretakers. It is we humans that are the ultimate expression of the will of reality. We are its inheritors, its gardeners, and eventually, hopefully, its cleaners. I truly believe that one day it will be humanity that defeats the darkness and remakes the universe to be what it always should have been. It will be humanity that washes away the pain and hate and builds that perfect halcyon future. If only we can hold on if only we can evolve. It has started already. What many in the three orders are calling the psychic awakening. It will be our damnation, or the universe's utter salvation. I will not see it. Nothing so dire and dishevelled could be purified so swiftly. Yet maybe, if he still lives, if Tan Irenaid is correct, if he can bring him back, maybe my son, Tarquinus, will be one of those who brings about this bright future. Maybe Tarquinus will see that golden dawn. By the throne, I cannot help myself. I believe. I know I should not, but I still do. I had a wobble, I will not deny it. There is nothing so foolish as false hope. Am I wrong to hope? I trust the future of my line to a Xenos who thinks of us as expendables in his own war against a creature of darkness. He cannot do anything but. To him, our lives are measured in minutes, not even years. Yet it is in such a being that I now give all my hope. For if he fails, if he has played the long game and tricked me, worse, what if he is in league with the thing we hunt? I should never believe that. All evidence contradicts such an assertion. Yet even the God Emperor missed the canker at his very side. His first found and most beloved son, Horus. If the Emperor of mankind can make mistakes, what hope does a frail mortal like me have in the face of such deception, such treachery? I pray again, almost silently whispering, just to myself. If I am honest, not even to my God. I wish I state whenever I am alone, as if by repeating it often enough, wanting it enough, I can speak it into existence. Bring him back to me. Bring him home. He is my greatest achievement. He is my greatest weakness. He is the fulfillment of my entire purpose. Bring him back to me, farseer. Bring him home. I despise everything about Monkey's ships. They say their shields prevent the corruption of the warp from touching anything within. Yet I hear the echoes of the horror beyond the metal shell of their ship. I feel dirty just being here. Strange that the Monkey managed to dominate so much of the galaxy when they can only move along predetermined lines, have no access to the webway. Every interstellar trip for them is a throw of the dice. If their shields flicker off for even a nanosecond, they are doomed. And I am right here with them. Thankfully, we scream out of the warp at what they call a Mandeville point. We are where we began this particular leg of our adventure. I see the wreckage of an ancient fleet of my people. We have returned to the scene of the crime. But before our ship does the unthinkable, I confront the captain and reiterate my plan. Captain, this is close enough. As discussed, we will now head down to the bays and take a shuttle out to the site. You will stay here. Keep the engine hot, Captain. At the first sign of trouble, be prepared to leave. He retorts. Are you expecting trouble? Never say never, is my only retort as I sweep out of the bridge. The others are already there when I reach the bay surrounding the shuttle. Ilhavnarian the Accursed, the Solitaire, already in the cockpit. The grim Lord Enforcer stands bolt upright as always. He looms over Ursula as she watches all from behind her gossamer veils. She is fetching for one of her kind. Without conscious decision, she has made herself as alluring as she can for when he returns. If he returns. She does not trust me yet, does not wish to believe, but she will do as instructed, and that is all I require. Well, almost. Next to the two is the strange shape of Louis, the Jacero, a mass of metal with a simian orange mop poking out the top. His clear domed head protector he rises and lowers in a nervous fidget while eyeing the judge. Alas, Josephus is not Barbon. He has no connection to the Jacero, so he does not even react to the obvious attempt to annoy him. They all notice me and immediately march up the gangplank. I follow them, my high helm in the nook of my arm. I may have need of it if... well, yes, I will hide behind the warrior's mask if I have to euthanize the boy. Even a mere millennia ago, I would have been able to wipe an entire world of theirs from reality. I thought nothing of it. How that Monkey has wheedled his way into my affections I will never know. I put it down to being in my dotage. Blessed Isha, I hope it will not be necessary, or I may never take the helm off. A surprise meets my vision. Ursula takes her seat and is swiftly pounced upon by another small orange ball of fur. This one positions itself in her lap and then curls up. It is Rabute, the Gyrinx. He has been her shadow for all of the time we have been in transit. Of course, I know why he is here. He has formed a temporary bond with her, so he can enhance her powers, or the better to save his true master, Tarquinus. I did not predict this. It is not unwelcome. Louis waddles to the cockpit and is slightly put out when he sees the Solitaire's pride of place at the controls. Louis, I am sorry. We have need of the skills of Ilhavnarian. He shrugs at me and glares at the Solitaire, but he does not interfere with him as he takes the co-pilot position. We must move through the webway to get closer, accursed one. We cannot risk an encounter with an in-gear should it return. I understood the first time, farseer. Do not waste time, he states as the hatches close, and he lifts us off the deck and out into the darkness of the void. Thus rebuked, I give the nod to proceed. A slip of the tongue. I should not have reminded him of the state of his soul. I will not do so again. We fly to a connection and pass seemingly through it. A ship this size needs a far smaller rent into the webway. I open it with little difficulty this time. Bright, cleansing, pure light surrounds us as we dart through a near-shattered vein. I can feel its lack of structural integrity. It is ancient and unkept. This will be the last time anyone flies through this spar, safely at any rate. But it takes us to where we need to be within seconds, and we dart back out again into real space. My skin itches as we return to the sepulchre. Devoid of all life, ancient eldar ships hang in the darkness, like tapestries depicting the wars of antiquity. We see the empty region where previously there was a ship, a gap rent apart by a demon from another age. As we coast closer, I walk to Ursula and take something from my belt. It is a glove, his glove. She looks at me and extends her hand to take it. Breathe deeply of it, Ursula. Use all of your senses. Now is the time. reach deep within to call him. Only your love can bring him back to us. Only your love can bring him home. She cannot meet my gaze. She goes inside. She clasps his garment like a lifeline, brings it to her cheek, then inhales deeply of his scent before she returns it to her face again, seeming hiding herself behind it. I will never understand the Monkey. Love should never be a cause for embarrassment, never be contained. Even if it is not returned, not enhanced by reflection, it should never be hidden. That only brings on the death of the soul. In her own way, she is as brave as any of her kind. Before a judge, a Jacero, and 2 eldar Xenos, she allows herself to wallow in her emotions, so tightly contained, so many, so powerful. I sit beside her for a moment as I croon in her ear. Now, brave soul, you must love without reservation, or he may not hear you. Remember the way he moves, the line of his form, the color of his eyes, the twinkle therein, the smile he gives only to you. She closes her eyes, tears slowly trickle from their corner. Call to him. Bring him back to you. The Gaia stirs and now stares at her, lending its strength. I can feel the waves of emotion coming from her. Yes, this is the way. Without words, she calls. I take those strands, and I give them speed and strength. I take her yearning and fire it like a blazing arrow through inner space. If the boy can ignore this, he is already dead to us. Trying not to disturb her, I quietly walk back to the cockpit. In hushed tones I address the Jacero. Louis, you wrought this power. You placed it in his hands. I ask you now, solve the issue you created. Do it now. Louis gives me a dark look, but he does as instructed. He attaches a small metal box to one of the many arrays in front of him. A flap opens inside the square, and he slowly looks to Ursula, and then to me. Ursula is doing her bit, Louis. If Tarquinus cannot hear her now, he never will. Do it. He nods and pushes a long orange finger into the box. It then gives off a wave of energy that we can all feel, but none can see. I feel it pass through me. For a moment, I feel as though all of my memories are jumbled and mashed together, as if I have never lived my life sequentially, as if all happened in the one moment. It is like being in the immaterium, but different. Thankfully, it ends as soon as it begins. I then open my eyes wider than I have in decades. I enhance my vision with all of the power of my people, all of our knowledge, our wisdom. I can see. And I scan the open spaces, for we view 1,000,000 miles of emptiness. I search for a needle amongst the void. I am stood in the desert next to a river, shrinking back from 3 of the 4. My haughty proclamation of victory now tastes like ashes as I see the hunger in their eyes, the derision, the certainty that they will always rule, that I am nothing but a toy that they will push and pull until my stuffing has fallen out. I turn my back on them and run, but despite the echoes of their laughter haunting my every speedy step, another sound, another voice reaches out to me. With each step it gets louder. With each step I am more certain of who it is, confirming the need in me. I wanted to hear her voice, even over that of my master, either of them, any of them. Initially, I thought it was my first master, she who has the blood of the divine coursing through her veins. Then, I thought it was my master of the eldar, his silken tones calling to me. Then, beyond all logic, I thought it might have been the most important person in my life, the man who has formed me, moulded me, reforged me into the person who could look into the eyes of the three and spit my refusal at them. The one person who has taught me how to be an inquisitor, how to be a man. Thaddeus. But I am a fool. Here, where my body and mind are just afterthoughts, where my soul is all I have and all I need. Here, where truth resounds louder than any lie. Here, where there is only emotion and thought. I hear her, the one person who would dare to come to find me. By sending out a calling, anything could come back. Anything could listen and hear and follow the voice. She makes herself a target and invites all of the spite of the Shadow Realm to see where she is. For me, it can only be Ursula. I leap from the sands and I do not fall. I fly into the cosmos. The golden sands disappearing behind me as I pick up speed. I fly through the outer realms like a comet, and there are things there in my wake, risen to follow that which burns brightest, my shining soul. I can hear her voice so strongly now, so heartfelt. She beckons me, calls to me, shows me the way. There is no time here, just experiences and memories, heart and soul. Past, present and future merged together. I can see images of what is and what was and is yet to be. I see my sons, my daughters. Their hair is not red. I see my friends all dead now. I see my people, my ancestors toiling in the fields. I see the line of my people all the way back to the caves from which we crept, living and dying to march through time until I am born. I see the war as it was, as it is, as it could later be. The warp itself attempts to slow me. It bombards me with images it intends to make me stop, to ignore the voice that calls me home. It is not the will of the three, I know this somehow. It is the very fabric of the warp. It wishes me to become one with it, to remain here for all eternity. I close myself off to it as my first mentor trained me. I close all my senses but one. I listen and I fly with greater speed by the second. I go to her. I go home. I can feel I am close. I can see the real world through the veil. The shipyard of the dead. The whispers of those who once populated this mighty fleet of the eldar still echo here. But through it all, above it all, I can hear her voice. Now that I am so close, I can see where I am and where I need to go. And I turn on that which follows me. I will not bring them with me to the real world. I hover in place and turn and take out my blade. This is the realm of the imagination, so I finally take control again. The laughter haunts me still, but compared to the booming voice that beckons, it is nothing. And she reminds me who I am, what I do, and what I possess. I am an Inquisitor of the Ordo Malleus. I am Tarquinus Indissolubis, and one day I will be the Thaddeus. I reach for a thing I forgot in my timidity, shock and wonder at the realms I visited. I close my hand on a handle that is not there. I feel a pommel that does not exist but for my will making it so. It exists both in the real world and here in the spirit. I draw out the weapon of our line, temperance, and its light shines like a star. The things that follow me are burned by its purity, and I am glad that its dazzling blaze hides the horrors of their true forms from me, as it incinerates them. I raise my voice and scream my defiance into the warp, and the light blazes higher still, scorching all who slowed and stalked me, those things that did not instantly flee from Temperance's light. Floating there, resolute, I watch to make sure there is nothing left that hangs on the coattails of my soul. Satisfied that all is clear, I search for and then find it. The most precious thing. My shell. My body. The other Inquisitors are preparing to come aboard. Ugh. We've jumped regularly since the event. Anhrad demanded we jump as soon as he returned from his failed attempt to stop the Huntsman of the Soul. Good, but now they come. This may not go well. Time to even the odds. I collect some things. I march to her room. I depress the chime, and the door opens, and she stands before me. I will never hold a woman as a man should. I will never be as one, as I am told normal humans are when they couple. But in this instance, I see the allure. She is stunning. She had been weeping, her eyes are red, her hair dishevelled. She has much to mourn, and like the rest of us, she did not choose this, to be here. It was thrust upon her. We should have dropped her off before this began. She is empty, purposeless. It is time that changed. She looks confused and steps backwards, awed. I sometimes forget. I am an angel of death. It cannot be easy for her. But that's irrelevant. She must act. First things first, and do not start shouting or overreacting. But I must tell you that the boy may be alive. She gasps, but she says nothing. It is why Louis and the Eldar went rogue. They are off trying to find him. It's too complicated for me to explain, nor is it important. It makes no difference to our current circumstances. Then why are you here, she asks. Because I need your help. We're in trouble, aren't we? She whispers. Yes, we are. And you can help with that. Me, she bleats. Then how? Is her only retort. You, Santara, will be our secret weapon, I state as I pass her the folded clothes. She takes them in one hand as I pass her something else. She looks shocked as I hand her 3 strapped holsters with pistols inside, and a bandolier with 3 grenades on it. Agape, she is a statue. She blurts out, I'm not like you, not like the others. I'm a musician. I resist the urge to sneer. Like any of us want to be warriors. I point at the table. She nods. She places the clothes and weapons on it, and hugs herself as she sits down. I delicately sit so that I do not intimidate, hunching so that I can lean on the table and bring my head to her level. Santara, you are a musician, you say. Yet does that not mean that you have played before crowds? She beams at me and nods. Fond memories filling her mind, I'd guess. Probably all of them chanting her name. But it brings her closer to me, as I then gently state my point. I will tell you something I have not told anyone. Recently, I was in a duel, a practice one. Yet when we fought, it brought such a crowd, so many onlookers. I detested it, Santara. So much that I broke the rules and backhanded my opponent across his mug, even though I knew it diminished my honour, brought an end to a duel that I had waited for all my life. I could not take the crowds leering at me, shouting at me. I ended the duel because I hated it. She's enwrapped, her eyes wide. You say that I am a warrior and you are not. Yet you could do what I could not. She looks lost for a moment. Then she is kind, and she whispers so gently to me. But Barbon, it was only your first time. It gets easier every time until you enjoy it. Live for it. Why be so hard on yourself? I nod. And that is why I say this to you. It gets easier every time you do this. I look at the weapons and clothes. You are a performer, Santara. Perform again. For me. Do it for Thaddeus. Do it for him. She knows exactly who I mean. But most importantly, do it for yourself. We had a saying on my home world, if you eat, you fight. She pulls back at this. I continue anyway. I do not ask you to do that. I ask you to pretend you can. Nothing more. I ask you to act the part. She visibly calms. Your days are wasted here, daughter of the Emperor, daughter of humanity. Now is the time to muck in, as we all must, but now especially. What have you to look forward to but waiting on moments of interaction with any who deign to visit, which cannot be often? You waste your life in this room. It is time that changed. Wear the clothes as your costume. See the weapons as the props for your new identity. All you need do is be who you already are. A vivacious human, proud and tall, never willing to back down or give in. Say nothing. Sneer at everyone like it is all beneath you. Pretend each of them is a little mouse that you are considering when, not if, you will consume it, and you will fulfill the role. If you pull this off well enough, I shall help you make it a reality. I slowly reach forward and take the back of her head in both my hands. She is scared, but she permits me to do this. I bring her in close. All she can see is my face, my eyes. Her breath smells like roses. I look her deep in the eye as I whisper to her. You can do more than you think. You are more than you've ever dreamed. Believe, and it will become so. Become the warrior you were born to be. I let her go and slowly place my hand over her single heart. It starts here, inside. A coward dies 100 deaths a day. The brave can only die once. Take the step. Do it boldly. I then slowly stand and walk to the door. We have 10 minutes. Don your costume, put on your war paint, and prepare to shine again. Meet me at the entrance to the docking bay. The doors close behind me. I do not know if she will come. I've done all I can. Now, I go to don armour I have not worn in a decade. But, of course, I know from my weekly prep and polishing, this warplate is in fine shape indeed. Bugger. Time for the kicking. I wait until the last minute before wandering down to the bay. This is going to be tense and deeply unpleasant, I'd wager. But I've put this off for 3 days. Time to face the fiddlers. The elevator doors open. I expect only two to be standing there, Barbon and Devlin, all that is left of my entourage. Yet the vision is not as expected. Far from it. Two more catachans block my vision until I make my presence known and they turn. Devlin has brought along Kagos and Belton. Then, what's this? Two more people stand there. My steps falter as I witness him. He is wearing his tactical dreadnought armor. Even for me, even after 3 centuries, it sends a shiver down the spine. Barbon has on his Terminator armor. By the Holy Throne, what the hell is happening? Someone is draped off him, leaning against Barbon and laughing sardonically at the catachans. I see an assassin in front of me. My jaw visibly drops as I see the grenades, 2 of them utterly outlawed. The other an anti-psyker so rare that they are practically unheard of. Well, outside of my own trove. She has 3 pistols, each one more lethal than the last. Bowel liquefying, if you know what you are looking at. Again, I know them all too well. I own them. But I have not wielded them in over a century. All over a figure-hugging bodysuit, slick back hair with a weighted blade at its end. By the gods, the face. It's only Santara. By the halls of Hera, even I was fooled for a moment. And they look at me. She bows. Barbon now winks, his helm not on quite yet. Eyebrows raised, I look to each, then finish on Barbon. Are we concerned, old friend? We've taken a hard hit. They know it. If it's going to go down, it will be right now. Do you think this is a bit of an overreaction, perhaps? Thaddeus, I have guarded you for a long time. Of late, you are slower. And we've relied on Ursula's shields and Louis as well. Without them, the eldar and the judge, we are woefully outnumbered. I cannot guarantee your safety, old man. So you think Santara has the ability to do so? Not at the moment, no. But a show of strength is required. That warplate? Really? Vermilia has 2 Astartes, and 1 is Primaris, and he wears Gravis armor. That's without their 2 witches to our none. The squats are no laughing matter either. 2 Ogrin is not a trial, but while being shot at by a sororitas as well? Huh. It may end up making us look even weaker in the long run. At least there will be a long run, Thaddeus. And no, it won't. They will fear us, as they should. Okay, I will trust you, my knight. Santara, do you know your part in all this? She nods slowly, with a playful smile on her lips. I can see it in her eyes, just for a second. She is enjoying this, like one of those events that gives you white knuckles and a feeling of euphoria, but only when it is over. Showtime. Devlin hits the release, and the doors open. As I look out of the window, I hear a gasp from behind me. Ursula now rushes to my side and points at a certain quadrant in the night sky. She grabs my arm and points further. The joy in her face makes it look like a star. She beams so. There, she states. At this point, Louis bursts forward, twisting the box on the dashboard, and grabs the controls in front of him. He pushes down on them and we lurch into high speed. The insane lips curl back as he laughs at the shocked solitaire, hijacking the shuttle's controls from under him. I roll my eyes and say nothing, as a Jacero buzzes us towards the right point in the void. I see it before the rest, of course, and at that moment, I want to jump up and shout the praises of Asuman, but I cannot. Not yet. Despite it all, I cannot help but snort and roll my eyes again as I witness what he is doing out there in the darkness. He is frantically moving. He is punching up with his fists and kicking out with his legs. In his power armor, he is dancing. And eventually, Louis buzzes not to him, but past him, concerningly close if I am honest. But on the third flyby, we receive the Vox. Ha, bloody ha! I presume that is the furball? Louis activates the Vox and laughs back at Tarquinus. But he slows the shuttle and comes to a stop some distance from who we believe is Tarquinus. I look down to her and say, Part 2 of your trial, Ursula. Please bring our silly young man back into the airlock. She nods and laughs, and practically skips out with Josephus and Louis in tow. The solitaire and I join the Monkey, but linger just away from the others. I restrain myself from laughing as he enters the airlock. Ursula giggles as she pulls him in with her mind, yet he controls his pose. Thus, it is ridiculous. He is languidly floating in vertically, with legs crossed, one arm extended down his body, the underarm supporting an helmeted head as if lying on the floor. Josephus even snorts and shakes his head, but his scowl is just that little bit less clenched. The airlock closes, the room is scanned, purified, then filled with breathable air stuffs, and he stands and takes off his helmet, and there he is. That ludicrous mop of hair hanging over his mischievous grin. For a second, I am struck by the image of Segura. Then, the doors open, and I get the waft from him. No. My witch senses, I hear the echo. That is not the laughter of an eldar god. I look to Ilhavnarian, the accursed. We exchange a knowing nod, and with flickering fingers it is agreed. No matter the cost, we will do what must be done. Their ships have already arrived. They are ranked up waiting for us. The three groups. Saulard stands behind his two Ogrin. Lucrezia, the sister of battle, and has even brought his little savant. All are armoured and tooled to the nines. As before, grim-faced Antrad, the Carl of the Kin, is front and centre with his friend at his shoulder. But now they are surrounded by a double square of League power armour. Vermilia coldly looks at us from the fore of her cyber mastiffs and entourage. Tarek, a black-armoured firstborn. Nemo, her blank and equally black bodysuit. Castro has brought along his thunderhammer. And there, towering over them all, is a Primaris Marine. As predicted by Barbon, he is wearing his huge Gravis armour, the one with the power fists. Saulot and Vermilia's eyes narrow as we come in. Thinking they would only see my diminished squad, their eyes dart to Santara. And they know exactly what she has in her possession, and the appearance of Barbon would give pause to a Custodes. I feel it has the necessary effect on the Marines and Ogrin. The Primaris even seems to try and puff himself up a bit. One of the Scots even took a step back as he entered. Can't blame him. They are rugged, but they're still human. Well, sort of. We stop at the same kind of range as the other groups. I nod to them all in turn. So, it has been a few days. Let's have at it. Yes, let's, says Andrad. Exactly what is happening, Thaddeus? Says Sowlet. Vermilia just sneers at me and nods her agreement. There is no easy way to put this, so I shall be blunt. Tan Irenaid, the farseer, Ilhavnarian, the solitaire, and Louis, the Jacero, have turned on me. In a surprise attack, they neutralized the bridge crew, gunners, and flight deck servitors. They grabbed Ursula, and, when the judge tried to intervene, they took him too. Holding both as hostage, they stole a shuttle under fire, then flew to, and took command of, the Huntsman of the Soul. The rest you know. Sowlet's clear voice rang off every wall as he intoned. I never thought I would say this. Never. But Thaddeus 98 asked me to watch over you, asked me to keep an eye out. I can't say I ever took to the man, but perhaps what he thought of you is not so far off the mark. I am glad I will never have to report to him what I have witnessed today. Sowlet's sneer contorts his entire face, and, despite his diminutive stature, I see how he seems to tower when he is angry. He steps forward pace by pace as he continues. This is not a cock-up, Thaddeus. This is my life's work, and not just mine. This is the culmination of hundreds of years. Inquisitors dead even of our own lines. When will you grow up? Xenos, you brought them into this. Then you let them get away. Traitors right under your nose. And they gutted your own retinue doing so. How do we know that the Eldar did not lead your protege and my tech priest Volontar into a trap? 2 of my men have died due to the carelessness of yours. And even now, an abhuman battleship sits off our flanks. How do we know they will not turn on us at any moment, blow us to scrap? And I can hear Andrad growling from here, but he goes on. All here on your word, like you gave for the Eldar and the ape. You have fallen so far so fast. You've lost your successor, and you've lost temperance. Give us all just one good reason why you should be even permitted to continue. One. I look to Vermilia. I won't deny it's nice to have a breather from those accusing eyes. What say you, Inquisitor Vermilia? She is calm as she responds, but cold. Very. It does not look good, wisdom. It seems your powers of deduction are lacking. I would be willing to put it down to fatigue or error, if it were only one of them. All 3 Xenos have turned on you. All 3. If you can, you had better answer Sowlet. Well, what have you got to say for yourself? It seems that I have erred. I will take any rebuke you wish. But I am the coordinator for this prong. I will not be retiring from the battle. Not now, not ever. And Sowlet paces even further closer. Then in that case I relieve you of that weight. You cannot be trusted with this. Your response clearly shows you have not gotten over the loss of your precious ward. Your judgment is compromised. You will confide in me, and I shall then take charge of coordination. I take one step towards him. Listen carefully, old friend, for I shall say this only once more. No, Sowlet, I will not. We have already discussed this. It can never be you. Sowlet's face twists into a fury, but he is cut off by Vermilia. Have you both quite finished? Sowlet, you were too close to the subject matter. Thaddeus, you will coordinate, especially with our allies the kin. But that is all. Any macro decisions will now go through all of us, meaning I will grant my assent, and we will then perform our roles, or this prong dissolves as being unserviceable. A risk to the greater whole. I nod. As you say, we should be in accord in all things. I shall consult with you, Familiar, if in doubt. She sticks me with a snake-like glare. Thaddeus, report to me even if not in doubt. I raise my eyebrows and nod again, feigning defeat. Thwarted, Sowler turns his back on us and walks back amongst his own, then straight up onto his shuttle. His diminished entourage walk backwards up the ramp behind him. Familiar turns to the Carl. My apologies for hard truths, Carl. Sowlet has a point, though, but it could have been better made. I do not dishonour you. We appreciate your support in this endeavour. My colleague just points out the obvious. You outgun us, and Thaddeus brought you into this. So, he explains how things could be even worse if you were not a warrior of virtue. Antrad responds dismissively. I care not what the sprat thinks. I just want to know if this is worth doing. I can't say I'm surprised the Eldar proved faithless, but it does mean that the enemy has more power and we have less. This is a blip. The enemy knew of our numbers, names and faces already. But he only knows of us. While we are still in play, the other prongs may make greater headway while we draw his attention. But when all is said and done, we carry the one object in the galaxy that can put that bastard into the ground permanently. If we cannot do the deed ourselves, we have to get it into the hands of the others at the very least. We cannot turn back. It's now or never. To be continued.